Have you been told you've had a chemical or biochemical pregnancy? Or have you heard the term and wondered what it actually means and if it applies to you? That's the question for today's Fertility Q and A. So if you want to find out the answer, then stick with me for the next few minutes. Hi, I'm Juliette Millar. I'm a trained natural fertility specialist with over 20 years experience, and welcome to today's Fertility Q and A, where I answer your quick questions on all things natural fertility. And if you want to see more videos like this one to get your fertility questions answered, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Today's question comes from Rebecca, who says, "My doctor told me I probably had a chemical pregnancy, but I don't understand what that means. Did I actually get pregnant?" This is a really good question, so let's get into the answer. First off, I want to quickly review what happens during the early stages of a pregnancy so that you can understand how a chemical pregnancy fits into this. As you know, the process of getting pregnant starts off with a single sperm fertilizing the egg that you've released at ovulation. And fertilization actually happens in the top third of your fallopian tube, not far from your ovary. So the fertilized egg then has to travel all the way down the fallopian tube and into the uterus. And this journey takes about 5 or 6 days. And then somewhere between 6 and 12 days after ovulation, most commonly around 9 days afterwards, this tiny embryo will burrow into the lining of the uterus. And this process is called implantation. Now, when it comes to knowing if you're pregnant or not, implantation is a really important event because once the embryo implants into the uterus lining, it starts producing the pregnancy hormone HCG. And it's this hormone, the HCG, that pregnancy tests are designed to detect. So if you get a positive pregnancy test, even if it's just a faint positive, this tells you that a fertilized egg has made its way down the fallopian tube into your uterus and has implanted into the uterine lining. Now, unfortunately, about 30% of embryos that implant don't actually continue developing and don't survive beyond 5 to 6 weeks of pregnancy. Or in other words, the pregnancy ends within the 1 to 2 weeks after your period was due. And if this happens, it's known as a biochemical or chemical pregnancy. The chemical part comes from the fact that the pregnancy was recognized through a positive pregnancy test only. It was too early for the pregnancy to be picked up on ultrasound. But I really don't like the term chemical pregnancy because it makes it sound like you weren't actually pregnant and that there was just a bunch of chemicals. But that's not the case. It was the beginning of a pregnancy. So instead, I prefer to call it an early loss. Experiencing an early loss can be devastating, especially if you've been trying to conceive for a long time. And it's really common to experience feelings of intense loss and grief. In fact, the loss can be just as painful as a miscarriage that occurs later on in a pregnancy. So if you've had an early loss, do reach out to those around you for support if you need it, and find someone that you can share your feelings and emotions with. And if you're not sure whether or not you've had an early loss, check out the video that I'll link to up here, where I explain the 2 reliable ways you can find out. So that's it for today. I hope you found that helpful. And if you've got a quick question that you'd like answered on getting pregnant naturally, just pop it in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer it in another Q&A video if I can. Bye for now.